I feel like I'm going for some sort of cruise on this thing. I wish there was like a motorcycle gathering in town that I could roll up to on this, because I think people that ride motorcycles would like this. So this bike is from Bigniu. Fairly new brand as far as I know. They have a few bikes that are really affordable. This is the only one I've seen in person. But I gotta say that I am quite surprised by it. It's advertised as a 1500 watt rear hub motor. Let's go up this steep hill. And then you have a pretty large 48 volt, 31 amp hour battery on inside this fake tank right here. Those are pretty impressive specs for something that has a retail price of $19.99. The whole time I've seen their website, it's been on sale for $17.99, and it's surprisingly fast. The 1500 watt claim is absolutely no joke. I did a dyno test on it, and this is one of the best performing hub motors on a bike I've ever seen. At least I should say for a geared hub motor. I've seen some direct drive motors put out more power than this. Brakes got a little squeak to them because they're like brand new. They'll break in, I'm sure. The brakes, by the way, are hydraulic, 4-piston. They feel really nice despite the occasional squeak you might hear. There are two versions of this bike now. This is the larger version that they've sent me, not to be confused with the fact that they did just release a mini, which is using like 4-inch fat tires, but they're only 16 inches in diameter. Now these particular tires are huge. They're like 5 inches wide. So this is not your typical 20-inch fat tire bike. And there's a few other things about this bike that make it unique. One is the fact that it is a crank forward design. So this bike looks really laid back, and it is. The pedals are like 2 feet in front of me, which does something kind of interesting. It gives it the motorcycle look that we've been seeing on a lot of e-bikes, but you can actually pedal it. Now my knees are maybe a little more cramped than I would like for a completely comfortable position, but it is way better than most motorcycle, moped, mini bike style e-bikes. And if you come to a stop, 12-degree hill, you can just put your feet flat on the ground all the time. And the saddle, despite not being a traditional bicycle saddle, it's definitely like a motorcycle saddle. Really, really comfortable. So yes, this thing looks a little bit odd and out of place in the bicycle world, but for something that is an electric bike, it actually makes a lot of sense. And then on top of it just being crazy comfortable, laid back, you have full suspension. You've got 2 big coilover shocks in the rear. You've got a big triple tree suspension fork with compression adjustment. And so they're pretty basic as far as adjustment go, but clearly this thing is designed for riding on the street, not for off-road. It's got a half twist throttle on the right-hand side over here, and a brake. There's nothing else over on the right-hand side. No shifter, no derailleur, just a single speed, and I find that to be perfectly acceptable. Most bikes like this, you're not expecting to pedal, but really this is just a throttle bike. This is something you're just gonna throttle and cruise around on. And with this 31 amp hour battery, I mean, just throttle, I wouldn't be surprised if I could get like 50, 60 miles out of this, just cruising around. That is, of course, gonna depend on how much of this power you use. and it does have a lot. So I just went up and down some real steep hills in downtown here, and the bike had no problems getting up and down. It's got plenty of torque. And when I say plenty of torque, I mean a ridiculous amount of torque for a geared hub motor. Why don't we jump over to the dyno run and I'll show you exactly how much power this thing put down, because it was very impressive. This bike is so long. If I had to pick one paint job in the shop that was my favorite, surprisingly, it goes to the Bigniu. This has this color shift paint between blue and purple that just looks really, really cool in person. I hope it's coming through on camera because they did a really nice job. Overall, this bike has probably been one of the most surprising bikes I've ever been sent, because in pictures, honestly, the pictures just didn't do it justice. It looked okay. The styling was kind of, I don't know if I'll even like this thing, but opening it up, I was like, this paint actually looks really nice. And then riding it, because I've done a little test ride on it, I was equally as impressed by the power and the speed and the comfort. So I've still got to do a full breakdown on this thing, but my first impressions have been really good, and I'm expecting some good numbers on the dyno today. Even though it has this absolutely massive 5-inch wide tire, this is a pretty big motor. It's a geared hub motor. It's a little bit bigger than the typical Bafang motors we see. It's definitely got a little more power hiding in there. Let's see what it does. All right, it's only got 3 assist settings. It's so laid back. There we go. That looked pretty good. I'm also reminded when I sit on this how comfortable this seat is. I will point out that the speedometer was a couple miles an hour fast, around 40. So whatever I'm getting in the actual video later, just know that the speed's gonna be off just a hair, but it wasn't too bad. 51.56 pound-feet. I am going to check that on the chart just to make sure that's right, because that seems like such a big number. And then 2,032 watts is also a lot of power. I didn't write that very well, but you get the idea. That's a clean run. That chart looks nice. There it is. You really got to make some room here. Yadea Trooper, Anioki Pro Max. Mooncool was a 2-motor bike. Free Sky Swift Horse just had a single large motor. So it looks like we're going right here. We've got the Biketrix XD, custom mid-drive from Biketrix, the LMX 64, custom mid-drive from LMX, the Power Goat running a nearly 3,000 watt single rear hub motor. The Romeo Pro had 2 motors. The Pro Max all-wheel drive had 2 motors. The Motor Goat V3, I mean, that's running a 60 volt system, almost 3,000 watts. Of course, the Lyric Graffiti way up there with 8,000. But for a 48 volt bike, this is some serious power output. It's very impressive. So I actually had somebody email me a while back and tell me I should test this bike. I looked at a picture of it and I don't know, it didn't impress me that much. But I gotta say, the looks were absolutely deceiving. In person, this bike is extremely impressive. Now, it's no lightweight, it is a heavy bike, but the quality was much, much better than I expected. They have some other really cool colors. They've got a gold, which is not quite my thing, but kind of cool. The lime green, I actually am a fan of. Like, normally paint jobs are kind of a eh, but the way they did these with the gloss and the little bit of a sparkle they have to them, it really does look nice. It's something you have to see in person to appreciate, I'll do my best to capture this on camera. They've also put turn signals on this thing. It's got a nice big light. It's got a horn. Kind of a beep more than a horn, but it's something. So let's see how fast this thing can go out on the open road. On a slight downhill, it topped out at about 40. On the flats right there, I was doing about 38, 39. So this thing's quick. Both off the line and top speed. That is just a nice, smooth ride. You know, 35 to 40 miles an hour on the road, just winding away. Never thought I would be keeping up with traffic on back roads on a weird chopper looking bike. I knew it was fast because I did one short test ride on it, but I thought I should probably wear something better than a normal bicycle helmet. So this is a helmet from Cali. I know you guys have seen some of the other Cali helmets. I've got the full face helmet, the Maya 3.0. This bucket helmet is actually a legitimate motorcycle helmet that's DOT approved, and yes, that is real carbon fiber. So a good option if you want something a little bit stronger or need a legitimate motorcycle helmet. Might not quite be my style, but I thought it matched the bike well. It's definitely one of those bikes that I just thought was gonna be okay, and then I hop on it and I really like it. It's funny how sometimes you really have to ride some bikes to see what they're like and if they're good or not. And bikes that you think you might hate, you find are a ton of fun or very comfortable. Or bikes you think would be a lot of fun are not very comfortable. I think just because of how comfortable it was and the looks, the Vituvia, now a company's called Color. The Tiger used to be one of my favorite little bikes to grab if I just needed to go do something around town. But I think I would actually take this one now. It's a little bigger, my feet are stretched out a bit more, and it's got more power by a long shot. So the brakes feel good. I know you guys can probably hear some squeaking in there. I am sure that's gonna go away after they break in a little bit more. But that is still there, but they're stopping really nice. Like I said, they're hydraulic 4-piston brakes. Every once in a while, if you hit a big pothole, the suspension can be a little bit jarring. I suppose that's one downside to the laid-back seat style, is it's a little harder to like stand up off the seat and absorb the bumps a little bit. You can stand up on it, but it feels incredibly awkward, so you're just really not gonna do it. You're just gonna sit back and relax. You're getting speeds well over 35 on a geared hub motor on only 48 volts. Everybody talks about how you need higher voltage for more speed, and I mean, technically that's true for a given motor. If you add more voltage, you're gonna get more RPM and more speed, but you have to look at everything as the entire package. A 48 volt bike does not necessarily mean that it's slow. A good example of that would be like the Cake off-road bikes, as well as the Maving. Those are all 48-volt systems, and some of those do 70 miles an hour. It's because the motor, the controller, the entire system is designed for that voltage. And this is one of those cases where the whole package was definitely designed to work together and works quite well. This thing handles really nice, like totally predictable, totally smooth. I'm kind of sad that I got a little dirty. I'm gonna have to go clean it off now. I'm pretty sure I've still got a screen protector on here, but screen is nice and visible. I didn't really have any trouble seeing this. Only 3 pedal assist levels, but again, there's no gearing. I don't really expect you're gonna pedal a lot, so I'm totally cool with that. Nice big buttons for our turn signals. In fact, let me show you where those guys are. So you've got these right here up underneath the handlebars. Very well tucked in there, but nice and bright. And then on the tail light, they're really tucked in under the seat there. A little harder to see, not as visible during the daytime, but it does have signals and the brake light. I mean, it does give it a nice clean look. I'm hoping that this shows up really well. You can see it's like purple, and then it color shifts to blue depending on where you're looking at it. So the saddle is here. Normally on a bike, you're sitting here. You can almost draw a line like straight down or just at a slight angle going forward. And so normally your cranks would be about here, and they're all the way over here. So that's what I mean by the crank forward design. That puts the pedals way in front of you, makes you sit back, sit down low, very comfortable. It's kind of a semi-recumbent almost, if you will. It does make the chain line rather long. In fact, you can see there's a chain tensioner back here just so this chain doesn't flop around. It absolutely would if that wasn't there. Horizontal dropout style, so you can tension it that way a little bit as well. So here is the motor. I don't think I've seen a bike with this motor. Just feeling it to see if it's warm at all, and it doesn't feel like it cared at all about what I was just doing. See, these are the RE Sun 20-inch by 5.0 tires. They are so large, but it really does fit the bike really, really well. Motor controller, all the electronics and wires are tucked in very tidy inside this box. You don't see any wires running from there up through the frame. They're all hidden up until this point right here. So the bike has a real nice, clean look to it overall. This one does confuse me a little bit. It says it's an air gas shock absorber, but I see no air adjustment on it. So I'm not sure what that's really supposed to mean. Definitely has a progressive coil spring on there though. There's those 4-piston brakes, extra thick rotors, big 203 millimeter rotors as well. Zero problems stopping. They're a little squeaky right now, but I think that's gonna go away as I continue to break things in. This is using a cadence sensor, and I don't really care. This bike doesn't need a torque sensor. There's no point in spending money on that. This is not a bike I would be pedaling a lot to go get exercise. It's just not made for that. And this seat, incredibly comfortable. It's hard to tell sometimes with saddles like this. Definitely hard to tell in a photo. Everybody that sits on this thing is like, oh man, this is nice. Like, this feels really good. Like, the riding position and everything is just surprisingly more comfortable than you would think. I'm really not kidding when I say I feel like I could ride this thing around all day. For most of the frame, you can't even see the weld marks. It's all very seamless, smooth. Definitely some stylistic choices here with the frame design. A ton of space inside right here, which is big and open. So definitely room for future upgrades. But out of the box, I would say it doesn't really need it. It doesn't need any upgrades. I can't personally think of a single thing that I would change about this bike. I think it is a bargain deal for $19.99. Really killer deal at their sale price of $17.99. And if you don't mind the style, or you think you'd be interested in this sort of style of bike, I don't think you can really go wrong with this. That's definitely not something I thought I would say based on the website and the photos, but in person, the bike is just so much better than I thought it was going to be. This is one of my surprise favorites for basically the entire year of 2024. I will put a link in the description where you can check out more about the Bigniu bike. And of course, if you want to support this channel, Area 13, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And don't forget that I recently launched my own line of beef jerky called Carnivore Kyle. It's delicious, clean ingredients of just beef and salt. You should definitely try it.